They train for 2 years. They're the lords of the skies.
We're now take off.
Request climb flight level 360.
And our lives are in their hands. Pilots. But what happens if a pilot doesn't know what he's doing?
It turned like this and nosedived into the ground.
The aeroplane hits the surface of the sea, everybody dies.
Pilot error has been responsible for some of the worst accidents in aircraft history.
Unfortunately, he didn't handle this particular situation correctly.
The fight to reduce pilot error has become one of the big challenges of aviation. Tens of millions of pounds are being thrown at the problem.
Airbus's philosophy was, we can make an airplane that's pilot-proof.
But in a bid to eliminate pilot error, have we gone too far? Could it be some of these developments may have actually caused disasters? Qantas is the safest airline in the world. Famously, none of its big jets has ever crashed. But in autumn 2008, that reputation is suddenly on the line. Qantas Flight 72 is travelling from Singapore to Perth. It's an Airbus A330, one of the most modern aircraft in the world. At the controls, the flight crew are equipped with the latest technology designed to make flying safer. But as the aircraft, packed with over 300 holidaymakers, nears the Australian coast, it suddenly performs a series of bizarre and dangerous maneuvers. First, it climbs 200 feet. Then, equally suddenly, it drops 650.
What's the plane doing? What's the plane doing?
The pilots have no idea what's going on. The plane is acting entirely on its own. Then it happens again. Uncommanded by the pilots, the plane plunges another 400 feet. Minutes later, the horrified captain issues a Mayday distress call.
Mayday, 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 Qantas 72.
315 people's lives are on the line. Will the pilot be able to rescue the situation? Yet the irony is, the entire incident is due to a computer-controlled flying system designed to eliminate a common cause of air crashes: pilot error. Just how serious the problem of pilot error can be is brought home to the people of Britain in the winter of 1989. British Midland Flight 92 takes off on a routine flight to Belfast in Northern Ireland. The aircraft is one of Boeing's new 400 series 737s. In charge is 43-year-old Captain Kevin Hunt, one of British Midland's most experienced pilots. His first officer is 39-year-old David McClelland. It's a normal takeoff. But then, 13 minutes into the flight, just as the aircraft is about to hit cruising altitude, there's a shock. Passengers frantically look around for an explanation. Hunt and McClelland immediately suspect one of the plane's 2 engines has blown up. The cockpit voice recorder picks up Hunt urgently asking which of the 2 engines is damaged.
Which one? Which one?
His first reaction is to turn to the aircraft's instruments. But the instruments that would tell him if an engine is malfunctioning the so-called vibration instrumentation, is notoriously unreliable in 737s at the time. Pilots don't trust them. So when smoke appears in the cockpit, McClelland falls back on his general knowledge of the aircraft. This tells him the smoke must be coming through the air conditioning system, and this, in 737s, is powered by the right engine. The cockpit voice recorder now picks up McClelland making a clear decision.
It's the right one, it's definitely the right one.
Shutting down the right.
Hunt immediately shuts down the right-hand engine. The clunking and vibrations cease. Calm returns to the cabin. The passengers relax. But minutes later, there's another, even bigger bang. Vibrations. Then everything goes eerily quiet. The second left-hand engine has died. Flight BM-92 has no power at all. Seconds later, the 400-ton aircraft smashes into the ground.
An airliner with 118 passengers on board has crashed on the M1 motorway in Leicestershire.
Initial signs suggest there won't be many survivors. Ed Trimble led the air crash investigation.
Mr. Trimble, BBC, can we talk to you?
I'm sorry.
I think most investigators would have said the chances of many surviving that would have been low. Clearly, the aircraft is flying at over 100 knots on the approach, and suddenly it's been brought to a halt very abruptly indeed, and therefore one would have anticipated the G-forces would have been really significant.
Amazingly, only 47 passengers die. 71 survive. Among them is the aircraft's captain, Kevin Hunt. At first, he's hailed as a hero for at least bringing some people down alive. But soon afterwards, questions start to be asked.
Of ground witnesses who had seen and heard this aircraft on the approach. What we were being told was that the left engine was covered in fire. It was like looking into a furnace, someone said.
This fire in the left-hand engine would have been the first bang the passengers heard. But that shouldn't have been fatal. The twin-engine plane can fly quite safely on one engine.
Clearly, that hadn't happened. So the question was, what's happened to the right engine?
The right engine is minutely inspected. Slowly, an awful truth dawns.
The full strip inspection of the right engine revealed that there were no problems with the right engine prior to the impact.
It's the right one, it's definitely the right one.
Shutting down the right.
And yet this right-hand engine is the one the crew had shut down. So why had the pilot turned off his only working engine? The investigation will now reveal a classic case of pilot error. The pilots simply weren't familiar with their aircraft. Hunt and McClelland, not trusting their instruments, had relied on their general knowledge of 737s. This told them the smoke must be coming from the right engine, and so they'd shut it down. What they didn't know was that the new 400 series 737 is different from its predecessors. The aircon is powered by both engines. The smoke and smell came from the damaged left engine, not the perfectly good right one. David Learmount is a pilot and aircraft journalist.
Both pilots had the vibration information in front of their eyes, and it was accurate. It was showing them where the problem was. But because they were used to flying on the 737-300, where the vibration instruments were not reliable, they disregarded the instruments altogether.
The investigation has revealed an alarming truth. Neither pilot knew enough about the aircraft they were flying. The crash was caused by pilot error. Hunt, far from being a hero, is sacked. But behind the crash lies a much bigger issue that is increasing the chances of pilot error. A deluge of new aircraft models starts appearing from the 1980s onwards.
It was a period of great development, a great change in the industry.
Captain Chris Clark is an airline pilot and flight trainer.
Pilots were faced with a significant number of differing equipment, even on the same type of aircraft.
It's a situation almost designed to foster pilot error. Pilots are having increasing difficulty keeping up with the ever-changing models.
It could be a different set of flight instruments, or it could be a different flight management system computer.
Each new version is better and safer than its predecessor, or fills a particular niche in the competitive aircraft market. But Kegworth has dramatically shown the downside. Hunt and McClelland had had almost no training on the new Boeing 737-400 series.
The airline had assumed that because these people were experienced on the 737-300, that they really only needed what they referred to as a differences course to go onto the 400.
Kegworth is a clear warning. Pilots need more systematic retraining if there are not to be further cases of pilot error. Pilots now begin to spend more time in highly realistic, computer-controlled flight simulators. But despite the new training opportunities,
Tower from Midland 1, we've had an undercarriage collapse.
the airline industry doesn't fully learn the lessons from Kegworth. It's not just about having more training. The training has to be good, or there can be unexpected consequences, every bit as deadly. It will need another tragic accident for the industry to realize it must do even more. Autumn 2001, and an American Airlines flight takes off from New York's Kennedy Airport. Flight 587 is bound for the Dominican Republic. On board, many of the passengers are visiting family and friends. But almost immediately after takeoff, something goes wrong. Patrick Tuhig is a local Catholic priest.
I spotted this aircraft going over. I thought, looking back on it, that it was flying a bit low. It turned like this and nosedived into the ground. So then I said to myself, oh my God, this is very, very serious. And I remember thinking how beautiful that plane looked in the last seconds of its life, because the sun shining directly onto that aircraft before it hit the ground.
American 587 Heavy, I'm not receiving your transponder. American 587 Heavy, New York. American 587 Heavy, New York.